I've been DJing over a decade and have seen all sorts of software and hardware issues. I had quite the nightmare of technical issues at a recent gig that included both software and hardware problems. So I thought it'd be useful to share what happened with me and what I did to fix it to get through my gig. Now there's some good lessons here for DJs that play out and worry about these kinds of things going wrong. So I figured that I'd go through my process of how to troubleshoot these types of issues when they arise. Now if you're interested in more tips and tricks videos just like this one, make sure you subscribe to this channel. But now let's get into what happened during my nightmare gig and how I got through all of these technical issues. Now after years of digital DJing and having my fair share of run-in with issues, I've come up with a system check that I try to go through before every gig. Now making sure to go through this checklist can help minimize issues before they happen, or can help you narrow down what the cause of the issue is when they're happening. Now first, you'll want to make sure that all of your software and audio drivers are up to date and have been checked before the start of the gig. As the latest software and drivers usually have fixes for various bugs, that could be the cause of issues during your set. Next, you'll want to make sure that the drive you have your music stored on is properly prepared. This means making sure it's formatted correctly, in good physical condition, because hard drives do fail over time, especially external drives, and that your music has been properly analyzed in your DJ software of choice. And finally, you'll want to make sure that you have all the cables that you need, audio cables, power cables, USB cables, and that they're in proper working order. Even if you have all the proper cables, if they're in less than optimal conditions, they can really cause some issues. Now while this checklist can help minimize technical issues that you may encounter while playing out, it does not guarantee that you'll never run into problems. Learning what to do when the issues arise is even more important than learning how to prevent them. Now at one of my recent gigs, I started experiencing issues almost immediately after a DJ changeover with the opener. Within the first 5 minutes there was a brief audio dropout, but I didn't pay any mind. No further than 15 minutes after that, I noticed significant audio lag within the software. Now by this time, the opening DJ had already left and the audio tech was nowhere to be found. Now this issue continued to happen repeatedly during my set and became noticeable to the crowd. Now I couldn't continue with the rest of my gig, which was an additional 4 hours, with the software and hardware behaving like this, so I was left with no other option than to try and figure out a solution for myself. One of the most important things you can do in a situation like this is to not panic. If you lose your cool, it'll make it a lot harder to find a solution, and in fact, you could make things worse by trying to fix things too fast. Now, I've been guilty of this and have unplugged the wrong USB cable or audio cable in some instances, which have caused dead air, which is probably the worst thing that can happen during your set. Becoming familiar with the gear that you're playing on, knowing it inside and out, becomes invaluable when trying to figure out what could be giving you issues. In the case of this particular gig, I was using a pair of Pioneer DJ CDJ900s and a Rain 62 mixer with Serato DJ Pro. Now I've played on this type of setup or very similar setup countless amounts of times, and are very familiar with each part of the setup and was able to go through a step-by-step troubleshooting process quite quickly because of it. Now before I could begin troubleshooting any possible software issues, I had to switch to another backup audio source of some kind. Now it's always a good idea to carry one, if not a few backup sources of music. A thumb drive or two with music on it, and maybe a RCA to 1/8 cable to plug in a phone or tablet are some good cheap options. Now since I was using Pioneer CDJs, I knew I could just plug in a USB thumb drive with tracks that had been analyzed in Rekordbox to get the music going from somewhere else other than my laptop. Now once I was able to switch to another audio source, I decided to check if the issue was software related first, as this could be the quickest fix. The first thing that I tried was a computer restart and software restart. Once Serato DJ Pro restarted, I switched back from the USB flash drive to Serato DJ Pro on my laptop to see if the issue was fixed. Now unfortunately, it didn't fix the issue, so I switched back to the flash drive from my laptop to try a different fix. Now after restarting the computer and software did not solve the problem, it was on to seeing if maybe it could be a hardware issue. Now the Rain 62 mixer has 2 USB ports that allow for up to 2 laptops to be connected at the same time. My first thought was to try to switch over to the other USB port on the mixer to see if that could solve the issue. Unfortunately, it didn't. My next thought was to try power cycling the mixer by turning it off and back on again, which may not be possible without the sound cutting off in some situations. Luckily, I was able to track down the audio tech at this point, and he was able to switch to another audio source outside of the DJ setup for me to attempt this power cycling. Unfortunately, again, this did not solve the issue. Now my final fix was to use another audio interface instead of the one on the Rain 62 mixer. Now this was my last resort, as it's especially tricky to unplug and replug all of the necessary RCA cables in a dark DJ booth. Now with the help of a small flashlight that I keep in my bag, another tip, I was able to take care of all the cabling pretty seamlessly. And after switching USB cables from the Rain mixer to the audio interface, I was able to get Serato DJ Pro running stable enough to get to the finish of the night. After finishing the gig, I took some time to run through all of the hardware and software again without any added pressure of having a crowd in front of me. After looking at each element step by step, I noticed that the USB cable that I had been using to connect to the Rain 62 mixer was in terrible shape. It was old, dirty, and clearly had not been kept in good condition over the years. Now this is most likely the culprit to the audio dropouts and lag I was experiencing while trying to use the mixer. Because when I switched to the other audio interface, I used another USB cable, and only then was I able to finish the night without any more issues. After getting through a tough night full of technical issues, I was most happy that I had the previous experience and cool-headedness to be able to figure out a solution. Now every DJ will run into some sort of technical issue during their career. It is up to them to be prepared and also to have some knowledge of how to fix it. And I encourage every DJ to take the time to prepare some backup solution and also learn the hardware that you play on inside and out. So if you run into an issue like this, you'll be able to keep the music playing and keep the crowd dancing. And now we'd like to hand it off to you. Have you run into any technical issues during your gigs? And if so, how did you get through them? Go ahead and leave that down in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And as always, if you're interested in more tips and tricks videos just like this one, make sure you subscribe to this channel. But now, get good, get out there, and make the moments.